And we are back on WCEGWood, the Hollywood of the South. If y'all missed the first half of this show, y'all missed some knowledge that is just beyond knowledge.
Yes.
So, I mean, I know you said to cut you off because you can talk, but I didn't want to cut you off. I just loved everything that you were saying. I'm just like, man, I'm sitting here reevaluating my life.
Right.
I just hope the deal that doesn't put me in the doghouse today.
No, look, I'm gonna call her personally and talk to her. Don't worry about it. You good.
So before we get back into the second half of the show, which in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about, we went from dating. What is dating? The essence of what dating is, and he broke that all the way down.
All the way.
So now we are going to talk about once you date this person and y'all decide that y'all want to be together for the rest of your life, you just decide that this is the person I want. What does it take to keep that person? From the man's point of view and from the female point of view. Before we get to that, I got a little bit of entertainment news. I want to give a shout out to the short film Hair Love, which won an Oscar from Matthew A. Cherry. That was awesome. Hair Love is a short film to put together the relationship between a daughter and his father, and her father. I really related to that short film all day.
Did you watch it?
I watched it.
And I was like, this is Wardell all day long.
You're probably the third person to say that. And the reason why it touched me is because for those who don't know, I have a daughter. Her name is Rain. She's 3. And I used to always ask people, can you please do her hair? Can you please do my daughter's hair? I ask people all the time. People are like, oh man, I got this, I got that. I said, you know what? I'm going to take the time to figure this out. When I watched that short film and how the hair, they animated the hair, made the hair attack him, that's how I felt. Because my daughter has a lot of hair. Uh-huh. And I'm sitting there looking at this thing like, what am I going to do with this girl's hair, And she wanted, and the little girl knew the kind of hairstyle she wanted in the short film. She's like, this is what I want. And then the guy, he had to sit down and he saw a video that the mother left for the daughter, talking about everything is done with love. Mm-hmm. Take the time, and love will help you get through this. So he stopped, he focused, and he did his daughter hair out of love, and it came together.
Except for that part. That part really reminded me of you. That first part you did.
Right.
Yeah, it looked like a tic-tac-toe. But it was okay, though. You did a great job, though. I was so proud of you.
Let's just say God knows your heart.
But I did my daughter hair the first time. It was a little crazy. The only thing I knew how to do was the little puff balls at the top at first. Then I progressed to doing plaits, and I actually was doing pretty good. I did a part nice, right down the middle, plaited down. I feel good now because I done got so much better doing her hair just because I love my daughter. I just like her to be cute. We go out, and I got tired of asking people, so now I feel extra proud because people be like, "Oh, her hair is cute. Who did that? Me."
And here's the speciality about that moment. I would predict, since it's your first time, it took you about an hour. 2 hours. Okay, the average father spends about 30 seconds a day with his child. Really? So in that time that you were braiding your baby's hair, you spent more time with her than 75% of the fathers in this country.
That's crazy. Wow! And
I didn't say black fathers or white. I said fathers.
And see, the thing about me is that my daughter, I sit down with her. I teach her math. I teach her how to read. I read books with her. We do puzzles together. I feel like a relationship, a daughter's first love is her father. And whatever her father does, and correct me if I'm wrong, the picture that she gets from her father is she's gonna progress with later in life. She wants to emulate that
with all due respect to that. Let me just accentuate by saying the father is the Godhead. So therefore, in that sense, she unconsciously will be visiting or having the presence of God in her life through the presence of the Father. That was a major part of the masculine design. And that is not to take anything away from the woman or the female, but that's the role the Father plays. So please understand, and I know it today from the prison systems and the people I work with in the jails, et cetera, majority of men in prison would tell you, and unfortunately for those that are acculturated of the black kind, the black, Negro, colored, African-American, Afro-American young man, 85% of them in prison would tell you they would not have been there if they'd had a father in their life. That's a fact. Wow. The guy who was part of that Nixon Watergate thing, who went to prison, got saved, got out of jail, and started a prison ministry. Right. There's two things they would do during Christmas time. And Christmas time, Mother's Day and Father's Day, when they would go to the prisons and they would give these guys cards. You choose a card, you fill it out to your mom, put a name on it, write what you want to write, and then we would be responsible for mailing it. 95 to 100% participation, sending cards to the mother. Mm-hmm. When it became Father's Day, less than 5%.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's crazy.
And you know, fathers, we have a really difficult job to do. We like you said, you was her pastor and she was your minister. And to me as a man, we hold so much because now I was told that, you know, through preacher, I heard this preacher say, when a family falls apart, it's because the man allowed it to fall apart. Would you agree with that?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Theoretically, yes, because everything he's the leader.
Right.
But now a good leader is a good follower. Mm-hmm. And as the Chinese proverb said, when the student is ready to learn, the teacher appears. Mm-hmm. So when that father wants to learn, he needs to listen to the teacher that God sends him, and you don't have to look far because she's right by your side.
Mm. All right. Before we go first, I want to finish my entertainment news. Also, Bad Boys for Life with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence grossed more than $148 million, making it the biggest film to ever be released in the month of January. The hype alone prompted producing partner Sony to announce a Bad Boys 4 before the film even hit theaters. So
it's not gonna be the same.
That's cool, huh?
It's not gonna be the same.
But you know what? I said the same thing about Bad Boys 3.
So I knew this one was gonna be lit.
They
killed the captain.
They did kill the captain.
But he was the glue.
The question is who they gonna bring in there next? Because they gotta have another captain.
Right.
So they
they have a funeral for the captain?
No.
Yes, they did.
Oh yeah, they did. They did.
And was it a closed casket or open casket?
Closed
casket. So who was actually in the casket?
Well, I mean,
then you open up the possibility of saying that we hid his death. We buried an empty.
Dr. West, right?
He writing the whole movie.
But that has happened though.
They
do that.
That's a good one though.
That's what they do on the soap operas all the time.
Yeah, years ago, who shot JR? This particular season, it just ended on Sunday.
Ghost.
Who shot Ghost?
Right.
But nobody ever asked the question, who killed Ghost?
Yeah. I said the same thing.
So, and knowing how entertainment works in terms of a great entertainment company knows about the mind. Right. They have psychologists and psychiatrists and people off of Wall Street studying human nature, and they develop films around not the strength of a client or a person, around the vulnerabilities, because wherever they're vulnerable, then that's where we could sell the product. We give them the image that they want. We sell the image. We make it apropos to their desires.
Right.
And we gross.
Well, they're taking the stance of like Star Wars and everything else. So now that they've brought you to the end, now they're going to go back to the beginning and show you how it all started. 50 is pretty smart because now they're going to take it back when they were young, when he first met Angela, when they were in high school, how they lived their lives, how they do all
that's
that.
What he going to do?
Yeah,
well, they did it already. Yeah. There was a 30-second clip. at the end where they were in high school and Ghost's friend Tommy walked away, and then there was him and Angie.
Angela,
yeah. But I believe a couple of weeks going down to the end, when everybody said this is the last season, he got a bunch of emails saying this can't be it. This can't be it. It was too late. So what they were able to do is put something together and say we're going to continue this in this manner.
Right.
And so.
Right.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Ghost returns.
Hey, that fan base is crazy. That fan base with power is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, one more entertainment news. Jeffrey Owens from The Cosby Show. Y'all remember him? He's the one that played Elvin on The Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Made his debut on the Have and Have Nots. If y'all don't remember, he was spotted working at Trader Joe's about a little over a year ago.
I love Trader Joe's.
And Tyler Perry reached out and offered him a deal, and he came and started working with him. Tyler Perry wrote in 11 episodes on the drama The Have and the Have Nots. And since Tyler Perry had reached out to him, he's also made appearances in Power and a TV show called Billions. So congratulations to Jeffrey Owens, man. He some of these people, man, the fact that he was in Trader Joe's, like, he had to make his money.
Yeah. But, and his blessing came from somebody else's negativity. That's what I love. And then, of course, you want to come back and say, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Right. Now you want to apologize. But you don't even apologize because you just increased the wealth of this man.
Yeah, they video recorded him making fun of the fact that he was working at Trader Joe's. And Tyler Perry got wind of that and had him come work for him. Now he getting paid. So the guy who was making fun of him looking crazy right now, but you just got him paid.
It was a girl, but
yeah, female. So,
but when you're living right, you're doing the right thing. Good karma always.
And the thing is, you have faith and just do what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It all comes around.
Yeah,
what's
what
his name
goes
again?
around comes around.
Right.
What's his name again?
His name is Jeffrey Owens.
Owens, that's right. Okay.
Yep, Jeffrey Owens. So shout out to Jeffrey Owens. Congratulations, man. You're doing your thing. Shout out to Tyler Perry, because Tyler Perry is amazing. He's doing amazing things.
Shout out to his bank account. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Inside voice.
He said, shout out to his bank account. Wow.
Tyler, get at me. I need to spend some of your money.
I'm not going to say I need to spend some. I'm going to say I will work to get paid some of that money. But
come on, let's keep it real. I want to spend some of your money. Yeah, I have some great projects, but I really just want to spend your money. We have not because we ask not, right? Let me get $20.
Wow.
Let's go to the bank.
This is Tiffany. I can't. So we're going to get back to the show. That is my entertainment news. So the first half of the show, once again, we'll just do a recap. We talked about dating. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, in today's world, they have marked dating as a whole bunch of different things. Everybody just created what they feel like dating is,
including you.
Well, I asked
questions.
The
show.
I did because I wanted people to know the truth about dating. Uh-huh. Like, what is the essence of dating? And he broke that down to the ground and up. So now that once people date and they decide, I really like this person. We connect, we vibe. I love her spirit. I love her energy, or his energy, or his spirit. Now comes trying to hold it together. So
I wanted to propose this question before we go down that journey.
Since you want to take over the show, go ahead.
What? I haven't had a chance to say 2 words between you and Dr. West. I was like, Penny, you want me to come in there and help you out back there? Like, what you want me to do? Like, just reschedule me for the next time when you really want to.
I'm looking at the woman in the middle.
It's okay, because you had me so mesmerized. I was like,
Reese is watching.
Reese is watching.
Oh my God, Reese. Hi, Reese.
So I want to ask the question, what is love? Now, the meaning of love in the dictionary says intense feeling of deep affection. But what actually does love mean?
In the simplest term, love does not have a meaning. love in itself is another word for God. When we put it at that level, we have to say, then we get into terminology and acceptable terms and blah, blah, blah. Love is the highest, and yet I won't say lowest, the in-depth, the heights, the lows. In other words, it is the ultimate expression of caring and being. It is not an act, it's an action. And when people understand that, they can be relational and be successful in their relationships.
And this is why I say this to a lot of people. If people will say sometimes, I love them, but there's no but.
There's no but to love. Love is a single word.
So there's no in love with you versus I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Can you explain that?
It's no love. It's love.
Well,
it's love.
basically,
don't
what
don't even go
there.
It is.
Don't go there.
What?
Don't you posturing for Dr. Best?
that term has roots in a.
First of all, I know some of this.
And I know a little bit, so together we.
Did you hear him say actions? That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that terms come from a social order, which basically says, I'm not giving you none. I love you, but I don't love you that way. I'm not in love with you. Usually the presumptuous nature is that when you're in love, you get the cookie and the crumbs, and you get the milk without paying for it. Because and this is not a put down on females, but if you're giving it up now, you technically won't have anything to give later on, because you're giving out of your flesh now. When you try to go for your heart is interfered with by the way you operated your flesh. To be in love with somebody is actually love, because if you love is an inward action with an outward expression. It's about the deep emotional care. Love says that you may not get anything for months, if not years, and you're still there.
Wow.
Though you may be tempted, and though you may have some thoughts, and you may or may not, but it is not about what you get. Love is basically greatly expressed in what you give. And since I'm a preacher, I might as well be a little religious. The more you give, the more you shall receive. Love is about giving. It's a great investment plan. If I want something out of you, I got to put something in you. That's the way it works, especially from the man's standpoint. The way God made us, not me and her, but the way God made us, he used a chemical. There's a certain chemical that allows the man to function in an anatomical way the way God has designed. Basically, for a small portion of that chemical was given to man. Then God, if I may say dramatically, God put man to the side, made him shut up, made him go to sleep, because he had to work on this awesome, complicated entity called woman. And in that, the rest of that chemical was not thrown away.
I don't mean to cut you off, but whenever you talk positive about a woman, they face is just light. I'm talking about Penny is over there. She turned around just.
They're supposed to, because you know what? Let me tell you why. Right. Let me tell you why. Because Ben don't preach that these days. What he's talking about, like, and you can see it in our young people and everything. The respect that a woman deserves is not given.
But at the same time, though.
See, there you go. You can't negate that.
No, you can't. But at the end of the day, nowadays, women degrade themselves to the point to where that's how men react to them.
Don't go there. Ooh, you want to get
wait. Watch
so
this.
Women degrade themselves, but what about the men?
No, I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them.
You just said women degrade themselves.
Look on social media.
Wait.
They do it all day long.
Look at the men on.
The woman to be half naked on social media and then say, "I just want to be respected." Then that's why you
look at all the
laughing.
comments from the men.
Once you pass the blame, then you are to blame.
Oh, one more time. Say that again.
Once you pass it, you are to be blamed.
Right. Right.
Now, understand this, and this is one thing
Why you
that...
pointing at me?
Because you just passed the blame to us.
I didn't pass the blame. I'm
What did he
talking
just
for
say?
everybody.
No, you're not talking
Yes,
for
I
everybody.
am.
You couldn't possibly be
I'm
talking
saying-
for
Hello! Hey, watch
Thank
this.
you.
Watch this. Watch this.
She taking everything I'm saying and
No,
twisting it.
no, I'm not.
What I'm saying is,
If you know anything about bowling,
Uh-huh.
you would know that there's a certain angle you must hit the head pin,
Mm-hmm.
and the family of pins behind
fall.
you will fall.
exactly.
The male has been under attack from the get-go of Jump Street, as we used to say back in the hood.
That is true.
And so at one point, what we have to do in order to solve a problem is first define what the problem is. Because anything that happens to that male, it's going to affect the family. So all the negativity of a woman or a female is not necessarily the fault of her man, but it could be the fault and or the absence of a father.
Oh, Jesus.
And so we, again, not trying to be religious, but the reality is that at one point this mess got started someplace.
Right.
And it got started way, way back. It cannot be held down like slavery to the thing by Africa over to America. Slavery's been around for a long, long time, but we must understand once God took that angel and said, you got to jump out of here. Immediately when he left the realms of heaven, hell was created. And everything that people are blessed with, Satan is there to counter it. So yes, a lot of women are negative and their flesh and all, we got all of that. But if we're talking about media, if we're talking about production, if we're talking about visuality of these realities, who controls the media?
Ooh.
Right.
Who controls the output?
Men.
Don't blame me for
No.
everything.
Don't
do it.
Watch this.
Okay.
Watch this. The reality is behind every evil, there's a man. Not to say he's totally at fault, but you could talk about the forest fire, but somebody had to strike the match. And remember this. Some women back in the 70s with the revolution and all that, they had a problem referring to God as he. But how do they refer to the devil? He. The seed of
true.
every fact in life. Women don't give seed. They cannot, never will, as long as that entity exists and that's life. It's the man that's the seed. So the seed behind all of our problems is the male. But guess what? It doesn't matter who's to blame, right or not. The seed behind all the correction to the problems we have is that man. Woman is a powerful manufacturing tool, and she will give you a reflection of what you put into her. If you give her a bad seed, she'll give you a bastard every time.
Ooh, that was deep.
Every time.
Wow.
Hey, ooh.
And the way the woman was made up, and this is a problem, again, if you want to, for the sake of having a balanced conversation, you could blame somebody and say, the woman, you got to take your share of the blame. It's not the matter of who's to blame, it's who's going to solve the problem.
Fix it, yeah.
And
that's why I
the
said
problem
this.
is always solved by a seed of righteousness being planted. And when your heart is right, your seed is going to be powerful.
And that's why I said in this particular part, I want to talk about some resolution to relationships. Like what it takes to hold a relationship together. Because people complain, people blame, people do all those different things. But what are some resolutions to keep this family, to keep the family together? Because at the end of the day, men have a responsibility. You've made that very clear.
Beginning of the day, not just end. Beginning of the day.
But women have a responsibility too on one end.
Right.
So what does the female and the man have to do? Let's start with the man first. What is it that a man needs to do to keep that family together?
To do what man is designed to do, take the lead.
Right.
And communicate.
Take the lead. And without the communication, it's. But now there's another reality. In order to keep this thing balanced, see, because this is a mathematical issue where you multiply by dividing. When you divide, which we were divided by being two opposites coming together to agree with the greatest in our strength, with the greatest expression, we have to get to know who we are. And you really have to go back to scripture on this. But in order to go back to scripture, it cannot be inspiration alone. It's got to be education. Because if you have inspiration without education, you just have a bunch of weird thoughts. You don't have any facts. Okay. The fact is that every living entity of creation, God made the male first. And that's a theological argument. A lot of people say, oh, you're wrong, and preacher, you're crazy. But then he made the woman or female second or last. Now, the human being, and this is where you have to dig deep, because it is deep. And in order to get your clay, where he molded man, he did not operate on the surface. God went deep, and we got to get deep, because that's what the answer is. And when he made everybody and everything, and then he made man, and he divided man into male and female. Who was last? The female. What did God do after he created the male and the female? He closed up the womb and he said, now I want you all to be fruitful and multiply. That does not mean for you to pump her up all the time and let her have all the babies while you be the man. Right. Fruitful and multiply. The word fruit comes from the term growth out of. Right. So God is saying, out of you there should grow wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Everything you need, I gave it to you. I gave you a consciousness to operate, and all you have to do is remember me. That's what that table says during the communion. Everybody got that table? That's what we do the communion. But he says, remember me. Right. Nothing can be done without the conscious opportunity that you have in your mind to call upon the Lord. To call upon the Lord is not to call his name. When you call on Jesus. No, that's a song. That's a cultural expression. But call means to desire. And when you desire in your heart, and word God tells us also that he will bless the desires of your heart. When you get an understanding of who you is and how you is made up, once you have an understanding, then you begin to wallow in the knowledge and the wisdom that comes with the understanding.
So for layman, let me try to put that in layman terms for some of us. What you're saying is you have to love yourself, understand who you are, your makeup, before you can ever love someone else and join with that person to become one, or to keep a relationship going. You have to understand and be a single person first. Well, yeah. And have a relationship with God so that you understand your love, your whatever's inside of you, and then you can join with that other person who has that same understanding. And then within that relationship comes communication. And then what?
And results. And remember, there will always be friction. There will always be some questions. In this life, you will have trials and tribulation. The greatest marriage in the world cannot work without trial. Your healing comes in the midst, meaning middle, right smack down in the middle of your trials and tribulations. You don't believe me? Ask the man who was at the pool of Bethesda. He wanted to get down into that water because he knew cognitive knowledge. He was conscientiously aware of the Holy Spirit, and he was saying, I don't need you to do nothing but put me into this water. People passed him. That's the assumption that they passed him until the Lord came by, and the Lord didn't question him because he knew. Somebody said, don't trouble the water. Then no, let the water be troubled. If you think that pool of Bethesda did not heal that man, then you need to ask the question, why do people spend that money to go to the spa, and before they leave the gym, they get into the jacuzzi? That pool of Bethesda was a major natural jacuzzi. When you know the facts, You don't avoid your blessing. You dive right in. Nobody wants trouble. Nobody wants trials and tribulation. But you also have to understand Romans, the 7th chapter and the 14th verse, through Romans 8th chapter and the 1st verse. Through all the challenges you're going to have and the realities, you also realize that though you were made perfect, you need to be perfected in your perfection. And the word says, oh, for the good that I would, that I do not, and that which I should not, that I do. In other words, this weed is killing me. This, the S word, this is some good, but it's killing me, but I'm still smoking it. There's a lot of things we can't help. And what he says at the end of the 7th chapter, he says, you got to confess. You don't need to confess before a man, because some people you just can't trust with your business. But he said in the spirit, oh, wretched man that I am, who can deliver me? And then the Lord spoke in the 8th chapter, the 1st verse. He says, there is therefore now no condemnation to them who are in the Spirit. Walk toward the Spirit and not after the flesh. Rudyard Kipling, a gentleman, I believe had something to do with England, and it was an Australia connection. But he was a prophet of the word of what we call the English language. He came up with a thing called, I have 6 honest servant men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what, why, when, which, where, and who. Those 6 questions, when asked in sincerity, you will find answers that will make your life a blessing. The toughest question is the why. But what, why, when, which, where, and who. And you ask those questions, you will get answers. You won't find that phraseology in the Bible, but the word Bible means book. So we need to read the greatest book, which is the Holy Bible, sanctification, set apart. These words are words of wisdom. They're set apart among all Bibles, but then it behooves you to read other good books, and the works on Rudyard Kipling will bless you, as well as Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, and the book that you're getting ready to write about Wardell and how to be a blessing to people through this meeting.
That's a movie. That's a movie. Sitcom.
Write the book, make a movie, and put it on tape and put it on YouTube.
From a man's perspective, in trying to hold the relationship together, he needs to be a leader.
He's got to take the lead.
He's got to take the lead.
Yeah.
Now, in order for a man to take the lead, he has to know himself. He has to love himself. He has to know the word.
Yeah. And in terms of getting the woman involved, that mother in that woman has got to be so understanding, is that she's got to receive.
Wait. See, I'll go get to that, because we want to talk about what the woman.
Okay. But to answer your question, and I'm sorry for jumping the gun.
No,
he's got to take the lead. Mm-hmm. But remember, 1 + 1 = 3. Without the Holy Spirit, without the consciousness and understanding of His holy presence, whether you be a psychiatrist that don't use the God language or just call Him who He is, the ultimate authority of all nature, God, all by Himself, omniscience, have knowledge and all that gaining of knowledge, the wisdom, and you've got to know who yourself is. Now, that also means for those, especially for those that are listening, somebody else has got to take the lead to help the man learn that he's a leader.
I see. That was going to be my second question. Because as a man, we have to learn what you're teaching now. We have to learn that because nowadays, a lot of men grow up without a father, like we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. Same way as a lot of women grow up without a father. So seeing a leader, a lot of people haven't seen that. So they don't know how to be a leader. They don't know where to even begin. So what can you tell a person who have not experienced that, how to acquire that and achieve that?
Especially in a world where it's hard to trust anybody, and it's hard to ask for something that you don't know exists. But you're at a point now where something's got to work.
Right.
Without imposing my theology or my philosophy or my way of being on you, the man, I would simply suggest, and I would put a gun in your head and say, you better believe me when I tell you, pray without seeking. The human being is made up with a consciousness that allows him to have direct access to one we call the Holy Spirit. Ask, and it shall be given. And the best way to do it, and so you don't cheapen the process, find you a quiet place. Find you a quiet place and just operate in your cognitive skills and your cognitive gifts. Just believe. Believe that God is hearing. And he that listens to you in secret shall bless you openly. There are some factors that you can't get around. Love is the ultimate, forgiveness, and in the case of searching and seeking, believe. Just like a mechanic. After he fixed the car, he believed that he's done a good job, and he hopes that it works. All these factors are apropos for all of life. And so, but somebody has got to pat that baby on the butt to start it. Somebody's got to start it. And somebody said, maybe they said about you, Wardell, the party don't get started until you show up. The change doesn't happen until you show up. So whoever that you is out there, get the party started by reaching out to those who don't know how to receive. But if you reach in love, they will receive with something called, I'm trying to understand. But life only gets started when that seed of understanding is planted. So if you're talking about some good old love making, have intercourse with reality.
Ooh.
Wow.
Let me write that down.
That right there was deep. So now, from the women's point of view, what is it that a woman needs to do at being, so once say the man knows his job. He's a leader, he's communicating, he knows who he is, he knows how to love. What is the woman's job at that point? Her part in keeping that family together.
Well, I'm going to tell you what Ned the wino, my mother, stick leg sis, the prostitute down the street on Baby Street, and all those powerful people that raised us was good for the goose, is good for the gander. God never gave separate orders. He just had separate applications. And so the woman have to operate in her highest nature, and that's called understanding. Because you have to understand, when you look at God's creation, and this is not to be egotistical, and I'm not trying to get next to her, because then she's a good friend of my wife, and my wife is listening, I'm going to be in trouble if I don't get this right.
That is true.
But that woman, she is the highest physical expression of God. Remember, God, this is controversial, I might as well tell you, God saved his best for last, but the last shall be first. One of the greatest gifts a woman has, one of the greatest weapons that she can employ is loving understanding. And the woman is going to have to bow down to her selfishness that is in large part created by men not being themselves, and show that man some understanding. And when she applies that mother wit understanding and he is trying, there's never a failure when both are trying. And you have to understand, you have to de-lie the lie that was told by the woman. It said, behind every good man is a good woman. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah.
It's not man, woman, and this is a statement arguable theologically in question, but the reality is a woman was not made over man's head to be over him, nor was she made under his feet to be kicked around and pushed around by him. Woman was made for man's side, and there's scientific argument pro and against, but woman was made for man's side to be equal to him, from near his heart to be loved by him, and from under his arms to be protected by him. He made her last. She was the top of the order. Very complicated, because everything in life comes through the woman. But she can't produce it unless that man plants that seed. So they have to have Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized intercourse. 1 + 1. When you got God in your heart, he shows up in your fiery furnace. He shows up in the in the belly of the well. He shows up with the Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and a big Negro. They went into the fiery furnace, and there is nowhere in recorded history that they ever came out. But when they looked in to check on them, there was a fourth. When a man and a woman is consciously aware, nothing wrong with being conscientious. You can still be saved, sanctified. The problem is we got a lot of people that are saved but are not conscious. A lot of people operate in their theology but not their psychology. But psychology is nothing but a child of theology. There's no such thing as Christian counseling. There's a thing called good counseling. And when you're with God, everything is good. So when you're allowing the Holy Spirit to counsel you, and you can agree, but somebody has got to plant that seed. No matter how mad I am at my woman, I got to start the change by seeding her with some understanding and making sure she's relaxed to know that while I still may be in my stupid phase,
right,
that she can believe me. And if she doesn't take a chance to trust me, even though I've messed up, then I'm dead in the water. But again, she cannot operate in her power until I release her, because I'm her pastor. And the way I release her is by giving into her, giving her what she needs. My greatest job is to be the foundation of her hope. And when she's operating in her hope, she's operating in her nature. And it's not I that do it, but Christ that does it in us.
Well, all right.
You know,
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Shut up, man.
See, my mouth was moving, but he was talking. You know what I'm saying? That's like our brains were joined together.
I can't with you.
What?
This is the, you know what? This
you
is
say you
the
can't
first
win
show.
with her?
No.
Oh no, that's not right. You can win with her.
So this is what I'm saying. You are the only person that has been here when I had her on the show, and she was quiet the whole time. Am I lying, Penny? Look at it. See how women.
Don't bring Penny in there.
You see how women join together and try to protect each other.
Did you not hear one word this man said?
Exactly what I'm saying.
But I really love the way he asked you what a woman is supposed to do to make the relationship flourish and to keep the relationship going. Last I looked, you are very much a man. Good looking man too, Mama D. You know how to pick up. But you are very much a man. So you can't honestly say what I need to do and feel to take care of you. Shouldn't that come from me?
Out of the mouth.
And when I asked that question, I asked it without directing it to anyone.
You see how he do?
Did I direct it to anyone?
He almost pointed at you. You looked right at him. You haven't even looked at him.
You know why? Because you ain't said a word. You've been wanting to listen to him.
I was waiting. I was like, oh, now I'm gonna get a chance to talk. But you looked right at him, and then he fell right in and answered it.
When have I ever needed you to say, look, I tried to start this show, and you all blah, 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 blah. The whole time when I'm starting the show, you're supposed to be quiet. Now,
stand by your man.
I was just so excited to support you, Wardell. That's the only reason why I was saying anything.
Yeah.
But it's okay because he said everything I was thinking.
Tiffany.
What? Yes, Wardell.
What?
He said it.
No.
He
He's a
said it
man.
all.
He's a man, remember? He's a man.
Right.
Your turn.
But you know what? He's a man with an amazing woman who has shown him everything that he just said. She has shown him and provided him that knowledge that he can come here and tell you, young buck, exactly how you should treat your woman and how you should be the lead, communicate, love yourself and God so that you can love her the same way. That's exactly why I said get him on this show, because I knew he was going to pour into you, my love, what you needed to hear deep down in your soul.
Well, I needed to hear.
So that you can flourish.
You needed to hear.
So that he's already poured into me many times. That's why he's sitting next to me. Look at his face. Look at his face.
I've known Deetta longer. Watch this. I've known Deetta longer than I've known my mother.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 69. Deetta and I have been married for 41 years. And my mom died when I was in my late to early 30s. And it was interesting that she loved all her children, but at the point of her demise, there were certain things that she was waiting for God to do in me. And once she recognized that God did it, then she took off. Earlier I said, Deetta, outside of my wife, is the greatest woman that I've ever known. And I always have to say this, and this is her dear friend, and she's got friends here. The owner and the blessed angel of this station that's opened up this medium for us to express ourselves. Deetta is the greatest teacher I've ever had. And most of her teaching is not by lectures and Google Classroom. One night, on a crowded, very complicated travel from her job to our home in Peachtree City, we needed to get off the freeway. I did not consciously see how we could do it. I'm driving, doing the mirror on the right, look on the side, and the mirror in the back. That lane over there was crowded, and Deetta spoke. And it's interesting about her, she is very angelic, complicated, but angelic. When Deetta speaks, my biggest problem is when I don't listen. That day, it was not a conscious choice, it was my reflective nature. In the religious world, we call it the move of the Holy Spirit. Deetta said, move over to the next lane. I didn't see it, but I obeyed without looking. As she spoke, I moved over to the next lane because I depended on her wisdom. She didn't see it, but she felt it. And when she said move over, at the point that I listened and then created the action of moving to the next lane, the lane opened up. That's a fact. The same woman that sometimes gets on my everlasting nerves.
We're going to delete that part out. We're going to delete that out.
But you have to understand, there's nobody smart enough to get on my nerves.
Wow.
Nobody I can respect to get on my nerves. So whatever it takes, she knows how to do it. That's why I'm amazed. Even when we went back to her 70th celebration in Los Angeles, the people that poured out all that love over her, and I've been a part of that for 41 years. I've seen her do it. She was at a desk sitting across from a woman named Shelby. They kind of knew each other because they worked together, and she found out that Deetta could sing. That relationship became the voice behind the movie Rocky. God has used her. She left our home, not our home, to be with her brother-in-law, Cleavon Little. She was holding his hand to usher him into heaven. And then after she did all that, the Lord said, well done, my faithful servant, well done. Then she came home to her man and wrote me a little note that I still have today. Thank you for being there and understanding. I'm fortunate And we both have we don't tell all of our business, but we tell most of our business. Here's another irony. When we were in Hawaii for that short 2.5, almost 3 years, we used to have some doozy of arguments. She got deceived. She did not know what she was going to be facing because she married her friend and went to the beautiful Hawaii with the grass skirts. We had a personal relationship with Don Ho. We had Gwen and Kimo Scott as our dear friends even to this day. But it was hell in paradise for Dieta. Hell in paradise. But she held on. And 41 years later. But here's the thing about Hawaii I want to mention, the reason I brought it up. Every time, not every so often, every time we had a major argument, within 24 hours, somebody was coming to either her, me, or us for counseling, and the subject matter of their concern for the reason they came for the counseling was the argument we had the night before.
Wow.
Fact. So,
wow.
I mean,
so that was how God was helping y'all to get through.
It's no doubt. If we would have been deceived on this puppy love and this ooey gooey and guaranteed sex, I don't need any other partner and all this kind of stuff, I would imagine we would have broke up a long time ago. Because one of the things that helped us to hold it together, because there were some days, weeks, months, and combination of months called years, where she was ready to go. And I was so egotistical, I wouldn't let her leave. Because in my madness, as well as my stupidity, I saw God speaking. What God has joined together, no man can put us under. So she's special. So, she goes out to these meetings and she talks to these women, and there's Angie and all the people at work and all these awesome people in her life. It's frustrating for me to see her be out so much, but I've learned to show my love through my understanding, because when she's got to go, she's got to go. And if I stop her, I lose. So we got to operate in our nature. We got to operate in our understanding.
I remember when she did the conference, she spoke about that. She said something about when y'all had that disagreement right there, when she had to leave, and you finally came to a sense where I gotta let her go. And once you got past that, things kind of smoothed out.
There's a ghettoism, and then there's a song. There's a ghettoism that I embraced, and then there's a song that's made popular in the Billy Graham ministry. It says, "Just as I am without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thy bidst," I want you to hear this, "and that thou bidst me to come to thee, O Lamb of God." The height of the love affair is when you come.
Wow.
And if I keep myself open to holy intercourse, she keeps coming at me and doesn't stop. And the greatest love affair is not necessarily made out of sugar, it's made out of salt, because salt brings out the flavor. What we think is bitter is actually a blessing.
Did you get that? Do you really understand? Do you need me to break it down for you in layman's terms? I mean, because I will just for you.
You will mess up a whole.
Well, put it this way. Let's break it down in layman's terms.
Look, Daddy West is so deep.
I know.
Sometimes you just gotta break that tension just for a moment, just to let it sink in.
You have to beat the hell out of the eggs in order to have a smooth omelet.
Yeah.
And sometimes they, with or without our corporation, have to beat the hell out of us. Because when the hell is in us, we ain't good for nothing.
This girl is crazy, man.
You see this little table here?
Yeah.
this used to be a tree that had to be cut down and sized up. And then once you had a vision for the table, you cut out the piece that was not the table, was going to be the table. Without the vision, the table perished. And once you got it basically cut out, you got a thing called coarse. 3 levels of sandpaper: coarse, medium, and mild. And the first thing, you cannot apply the medium and the mild when you need coarseness. And sometimes you need that roughness to begin the process. But before it's all over, it smooths out itself.
Why do you feel like because we about to wrap up, so we're gonna make this a quick. What is it about when you get married? In marriage, you're tested as much as you are when you get married, because it seems like, from what I understand, and I was married before, when you get married, it seems like the tests are a lot harder, a lot stronger, and it's almost like you're trying to be drawn apart. But like you said, if you don't have that love, that understanding, that leadership, it'll break apart.
The question revolves around the fact that God cannot be totally figured out. This is why we have to believe. Because we spend a lifetime getting to know God, but we never get to know him, but we enjoy the ride by believing. An old friend, a friend of, I don't know if I said this earlier off mic, but Carlton Pearson said something in his interview, because he had made the switch over and he's dealing in a controversial form of ministry, but he's an awesome guy and we love him dearly. Dieta and Carlton grew up together in San Diego. Carlton said that 85% of what people believe they don't know. All right? So we don't know God, and not because we is dumb, it's because God is a mystery. Women, being the epitome of God's nature, is hard to figure out because they are a mystery. If you ever figure her out, then she's no longer yours, a mystery. And nobody buys a novel like they buy mysteries. You will always search for an answer to a mystery. Seek and you shall find. It is in the seeking that you find, but if you stop seeking the mystery, so you're still trying to figure her out, and you'll go to heaven trying to figure out, you'll go to heaven trying to figure out God, but at least you got to try. But it's best you have tried and failed than not tried at all. And if God can resurrect a dead body into a living soul, he can resurrect your failure into success.
Wow.
I like to speak that again. Speak that again. Just say my name first.
So look, we're going to get ready to wrap up the show. So Tiffany, since you've been so quiet.
It's been wonderful for you, hasn't it? I know.
I just hope I can get out of here safely tonight.
Since you've been so quiet, can you please, do you have anything you want to say before we leave?
I so humbly want to say that.
Okay, thank you.
In all,
so on no, just kidding.
That's that foolie wang I be talking about right there. Those shenanigans will not work. Penny, the Simply Tiffany Soul Show really sounds good. I'm just saying. Okay, Mr. Wardell, thank you very much for allowing me to speak on your show. But yes, along these same lines, I'm directing at the end of the month a play called Karma. And it's about when you put good karma out, good karma comes back. When you put bad karma out, bad karma comes back. And just as he was speaking, which is so divinely correct, the young man who wrote it is very much in touch with who he is. And when he wrote it, it's about a young girl giving her virtue to a man who promised to be the man she wanted and needed at that time. But then once he got the cookies and the crumbs, he left her. And she harbored that like throughout life. It controlled her life. And then they meet again. But yet now he's married to his soulmate, the woman that he really, really loves now. But then that's when karma comes in the mix. So, and that's at the end of the month. Yeah. So it's a really good play, and it fits right in with what he was talking about. I don't think even Sean Hutchinson wrote it. He even realized how deep it is when you're talking about love and putting good karma out there, and the vibrations and energy that you're giving away when you give away the milk too soon. Because they don't, and that's the prime example. He didn't buy the cow. So, but that's the end of the month. Port of Sanford, once again, at the Port of Sanford, February 28th, 29th, and the 1st of March. And there's a senior show Friday morning at 10.
All right. And you have a book.
Also, and then Deetta's going to be in my movie, A Rose Through Cancer. I just had to throw that out there. Yeah.
Well, I want to say this. Words cannot express, but in my attempt to say my thank you to the leadership of this organization, this studio, this medium of expression, I would have to reflect upon the wisdom and the divine understanding of the ministry of Sly and the Family Stone. I want to thank you for letting me be myself again. I have a book.
Yes, you do.
I have a book about relationships. It was based on the ministry of the armor bearer, but I was looking at the power and the authority that exists in the relationship between the leader and those that serve the leadership. But then I borrowed from the philosophy of the relationship we found in The Godfather. All three, Godfather, Godfather 2, Godfather 3, and that was a relationship between Don Michael Corleone and his enforcer, his armor bearer, Al Neri. They had such a tight relationship. There's a spirit about them that brought about an understanding, and they were together until death do them part. And so when it comes to relationships, this book is called Messages with a Meaning. It's a series of nugget messages. You can get it on Amazon, Bookstand. My publisher is on the Kindle. And
what was the name of it?
Messages with a Meaning.
Messages with a Meaning.
They're little nuggets. They're little nuggets. It's less than 100 pages. And you can get it, you can look up Amazon and find it in various ways, the Kindle, the Nook, and all of that.
Okay.
And it is a book that's less than 100 pages long. It took me 20 years to write it and a majority of my life to live it. And so I want to again thank all of you all for letting me be here. This is amazing.
Knowledge. This is incredible.
It's nice. It's nice to be loved and understood. And I've known about you and your work. Of course, I've seen you in the movies. This lady made me cry when she did the Raisin, and that was private. Pearly, not Raisin, Pearly. Mm-hmm. And Pearly was close because that was one of Cleavon's highlights of his career. And to be in you all's presence and be allowed to be myself, and hopefully after the mics are turned off and the camera goes off, that you won't talk about me too bad. But you have blessed me to allow me to be in this meeting. And the thing that's so unique about you, both of you all have a nice way of making me shut up and still feel good about what I say.
Listen, how can people reach you, contact you? Because you're going to get some people on the contact.
Yes.
Well, I don't mind giving out my cell number, 770.
No, let's give them your social media. If you got it on email.
Facebook is still having some issues, but LinkedIn and Instagram. And then there's my website, westministries.org. And I'm a leader servant. And if I may say without being too egotistical, I would love to come and serve you in any capacity possible, to take my skills and my knowledge and be a blessing to you. And wouldn't mind if you were able to bless me financially for that effort, but freely I have received, even though my tuition was a lot. Freely I have received, so freely I give. And by the way, last thing, because it's hard for me to shut up, as you know, God spoke about money more than he spoke about salvation. So I wouldn't get mad if you shared a little bit with me, but other than that, I want to thank you
for
letting me be myself.
Yes.
All right.
Again.
And Tiffany, how can people reach you?
Simply Tiff on IG and Twitter, Simply Tiffany Soul on everything else, or go to my website, simplytiffanysoul.com.
All right, and we're going to conclude the show. I want to just say one more time, happy Valentine's Day to all the ladies out there. From Tiffany, happy Valentine's Day to all the fellas.
All the fellas.
But I want to wish y'all a wonderful, be safe out there. It's crazy. But you have to be safe out here in this world. There's crazy things that I'm just constantly seeing crazy things going in this world. Please be careful. Men, if you want to take your lady out on a date, make sure you go take her to a nice play tomorrow, have some dinner, just have a little fun with them and everybody will be happy. So make sure you go check out The Holy Seduction, starring Cassandra Hollis and Anthony Earl Jr., written by Eva Bellamy. And Television Productions tomorrow at the Port of Sanford. So on that note, and they have coupons and stuff that they're giving away. So if you want to take your date out to dinner afterwards, they will have coupons for discounts and stuff at certain restaurants. On that note, God bless. We're getting ready to get up out of here. We're a little bit over the schedule because of this incredible speaking that we had today.
We had service tonight.
This was knowledge to the core. So I'm happy. I feel totally different and relieved and just feel refreshed.
And y'all are still friends?
Yeah.
We all right.
We all right. I might answer a text or a call next week.
On that note, we are out. God bless. See you next week.
Goodbye.
Neither one of us wants to be the first to say. Neither one of us want to be the first to say. Neither one of us want to be the first to say.